Thanks, Prabhu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Janmadhirate Nashtaprayeshu Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtukim. I'm now going to the Veda base. Can everyone see the screen? Yeah. Thanks. Kleshodhika tarastesham avyakta shakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukham deha vadhir avapyate. Kleshodhika tarastesham avyakta shakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukham deha vadhir avapyate. Kleshodhika tarastesham avyakta shakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukham deha vadhir avapyate. Would someone please like to chant the verse?
Kleshodhika tarastesam avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukham dehavadhi bir avapyate.
Thank you,
क्लेशोऽधिकरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्ताम् आसक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखम् देहवद्धिरवाप्यते.
Thank you, Satyabhama Mataji. Anybody else, please?
Klesho adhigadarastesham avyakta sakta chedasam avyakta hi gadir dukkham devabdhir avapyade.
Thank you, Sumeshwar. Anyone else would like to try? Someone who has not chanted before? Don't worry about the pronunciation, it's perfectly okay. Krishna sees the effort. Don't feel shy, please. Anybody who hasn't chanted before? Okay, so we'll read the synonyms, translation, and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Synonyms: klesha, trouble; adhikatara, very much; tesham, of them; avyakta, to the unmanifested; asakta, attached; chetasam, of those whose minds; avyakta, toward the unmanifested; he, certainly; gati, progress; dukham, with trouble; deha vadbhi, by the embodied; avapyate, is achieved. Translation: for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Purport: the group of transcendentalists who follow the path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnana Yogis, and the persons who are in full Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service to the Lord, are called Bhakti Yogis. Now, here, the difference between Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is definitely expressed. The process of Jnana Yoga, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal, is very troublesome, whereas the path of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in direct service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorial. It is very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that he is not the body. Therefore, the Bhakti Yoga accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind which can thus be applied. I'll read this again. It's very significant. Please pay close attention to it. These couple sentences. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorial. It is very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that he is not the body. Therefore, the Bhakti yogi accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind, which can thus be applied. Of course, worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form within the temple is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be saguna or nirguna of the Supreme, possessing or not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is saguna worship, for the Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil paint, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street, and if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. But any old box or an imitation which we may find somewhere, but which is not authorized by the post office, will not do the work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Archa Vigraha. This Archa Vigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent, all-powerful. Therefore, his incarnation as Archa Vigraha, he can accept the services of his devotee just to make it convenient for the man in conditioned life. So, for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly. But for those who are following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic texts as the Upanishads, and they have to learn the language, understand the non-perceptual feelings, and realize all these processes. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service simply by the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, simply by eating the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that the personalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly. A similar passage appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated that if one ultimately has to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the surrendering process is called bhakti, but instead takes the trouble to understand what is Brahman and what is not Brahman, and spends his whole life in that way, the result is simply troublesome. Therefore, it is advised that one should not take up this troublesome path of self-realization because that there is uncertainty in the ultimate result. A living entity is eternally an individual soul, and if he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature, but the blissful portion is not realized. By the grace of some devotee, such a transcendentalist, highly learned in the process of Jnana Yoga, may come to the point of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble because he cannot give up the idea. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent And one should know for certain that this unmanifested realization is against the nature of a spiritual, blissful self. One should not take up this process. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotional service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is the danger of turning to atheism. Thus, the process of centering attention on the unmanifested, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, as already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna. That's a long purport by Srila Prabhupada and full of so many instructions and such logical arguments. So now we'll try and understand this a little more. Om Agnyantimirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanbutam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parichana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Pitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Chakatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vaneshwari Krishnapanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedant Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Teshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you everyone for spending time this evening on this forum, trying to learn the Bhagavad Gita and apply it in our day-to-day lives. So 12.5 talks about impersonalism versus personalism. So you can see these little pictures on the right-hand side of your screen. It's impersonalism. This is what impersonalism is. You know, if you can make a pictorial representation of it, it's just the effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Krishna, the original name. He has many names, but the original name is Krishna, or personalism. So personalism, as you can see, there is some kind of an exchange which is happening here. So we'll understand this in more detail. So what is our learning focus today is Bhakti Yoga versus Jnana Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga talks about personalism, devotional service, and Jnana Yoga is about impersonalism, which in fact is a kind of atheism. Atheism rejects the concept of God. So here we will see also how Jnana Yoga in a way rejects the understanding of God in its totality, and then how we can apply Bhakti Yoga in our day-to-day lives. As ever, I owe my respectful obeisances and all gratitude to His Grace Gauranga Priya Das Prabhu has written a very nice booklet, Bhagavad Gita Notes, which explains each and every verse, each chapter, how it flows one into the other for systematic study. So I have used his notes primarily, the basis on which I have prepared today's presentation. So let's understand this Bhakti Yoga versus Jnana Yoga. Oh, yes, of course. This is going to be a very interactive session. If you have a thought, a comment, or a question, please ask it. And I'm also going to be asking you questions and, what your thoughts are on this. So Bhakti Yoga versus Jnana Yoga. Let's first understand what are the stages of transcendental realization. Transcendental is anything which is above and beyond the matter. Currently, we all in a material platform of existence. Every thought, word, deed, anything that we're doing is all matter related, though we are spiritual entities. So what we say is when the spiritual entity is encased within the matter, that is called embodiment. That is called embodiment. And when the spiritual entity is making efforts to go beyond this material existence, that is called transcendental. So we'll understand what are the stages of transcendental realization. So the first stage is called the Brahman realization. Brahman. Now, Brahman, the Shastras explain, is the effulgence, the all-pervading aspect of the Supreme. So there is God. People understand this term God. God is actually a title like president or vice president or brigadier general, whatever. So God is a title. Now there are certain attributes of God, and God has a form which the Shastras explain as Sat, Chit, Anand. Sat is the eternality, the all-pervading aspect, Sat. That is, eternality is the Brahman understanding. The next, you go a little bit higher and deeper, one comes to the realization of Paramatma realization. Paramatma is another attribute of the Supreme Person who is the localized aspect in all of existence, whether it is spiritual existence or whether it is material existence. So much so, Paramatma, of course, in this human body or any other jiva, which is a living entity, any other living form, the Paramatma accompanies the jiva, the spirit soul, as the Paramatma. But Paramatma is also there in matter. So we see it is explained that even in the space between atom is where Paramatma is there. And this attribute is known as Chit. Chit is all awareness, total awareness, absolute awareness. You and I are aware of stuff being the infinitesimal part of the infinite whole, Krishna. So you and I also have awareness. Every jiva has awareness, but our awareness is limited. Our awareness is limited to this particular body. And even whatever awareness that we have is very, very limited, and it could also be faulty. I don't know exactly what is going on in my body at this point in time, but not so with the Paramatma. Paramatma knows everything everywhere that is happening. So that's the Paramatma realization. And the final realization is the Bhagavan realization, the personal. So Bhagavan is a person. He's a person like you and I. The difference is that he's infinite, the supreme, he's absolute, whereas we are infinitesimal. So as you can see from this pictorial representation of this idea, this concept is that there is Bhagwan, and in Bhagwan, the Paramatma and the Brahman is all subsets of. So when a transcendentalist is trying to make an attempt for Brahman realization, he's only having a partial understanding of the absolute. Brahman is not the total absolute. It's not totality. Paramatma is not the absolute. It's not the full. It's not complete, I should say. And then finally, it's the Bhagwan, which is the complete understanding. So this is the full and complete understanding of what the absolute truth is. So keep this picture in mind. Now, if we understand this with a particular analogy, we can see that Brahman is far off. So, if you're going and far off in the distance, you see a huge mountain range, far off. So if you're really, really far off, you can just something which is shapeless, formless, you see it, way far off over there, correct? And there's really no engagement that you can have. There is distance. There's distance between you and that actual place where it is something hazy. We can say it is there. So there is no engagement. Then we have the Paramatma realization. So when you come a bit closer, you go more deeper, you have a little fuller understanding of the realizations that you get. You see that some form is detected. We can make out the outline, correct, of the mountain, the craggy edges, and you can say, oh, okay, it looks, this is the color. Some outline is there and some interaction. We have some understanding which is more than just the Brahman realization. And then you come to the Bhagavan. Bhagwan is when you come closest, when you really come up close and in front of the mountain, you can understand how immense it is. You can see the little pebbles, you can see the huge rocks, you can see the trees, you can see the different animals, you can see so many things. You could see a waterfall across. So this is the Bhagwan, where the variety and the qualities are experienced, and it is full engagement. Now, if you see in all these cases, it is our senses which are being engaged. So earlier, the senses have just a very minimal or hardly any interaction. You actually need to interact with something which can interact back with you. That's what interactions see, that the Bhagwan realization is not only total, but the experience and engagement that one can have with the Bhagwan realization is complete. Now, what is atheism and what is devotion? Correct. So if we try to understand this, is devotion has these particular traits. Okay. It accepts a personal form of God, sees and understands reality as it is, total understanding, the Bhagwan realization that we spoke about, right? And it maximizes the opportunity of the human form. So this human form, as we understand, has the highest developed intellect, So the human being can ask questions beyond the instinct level. That's what we can do. So once we get into the human form, the devotion is only a natural extension of the use of this intellect. The intellect is so powerful, it would be so wasted just to do a partial utility of that. So there is this devotion, okay? And the attributes of atheism is opposite. Atheism doesn't accept the personal form of God, it rejects. It says that the Brahman is all in all, for which the personal, the perceptions are accepted as reality. So right now, if I can see something, correct? And this is what my understanding is. Based on my understanding, my frame of reference, I say yea, nay, true, false, whatever be the case over here. So these are all perceptions. Perceptions are nothing but how I see reality as. But reality could be completely different from my perception. So what happens is it gives a limited, very limited understanding, the Brahman realization. And obviously you cannot see and have any personal experience of God, of Krishna. And consequently, it's a wasted opportunity of human form. Whether devotion or atheism, how it is determined is by use of the free will. So right now there is information that we get. We get information from the Shastras, we get information from the Acharyas of what that information means, what the Shastras mean, the purports, and it's our free will, whether we accept it or whether we reject it. So the free will determine whether one gets onto the path of devotion or one is atheism, on the path of atheism. Now, there is something which is called agnostic. I neither accept nor reject. But in a way, it is a kind of a subtle atheism. So not accepting is, in a way, rejecting the personal form of the Supreme Personality. So this is how the difference between impersonalism, a form of atheism, and devotional is. Now, here's a question. Both are transcendental. We discussed transcendental at the start of the presentation. Transcendental is above and beyond matter, correct? So my question to you is, what does it transcend? Transcends what? Can anyone please share your understanding?
Transcendental, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. What I understood from transcendental is above the three modes of material nature, which is tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. So that is transcendental.
Excellent. Tamasic, Rajasic, and Sattvic. So these are the three modes. So typically material nature is controlled by the three modes. So at any given time, whatever anyone who's in the material nature would be on a material platform of existence would be influenced by these three modes. Now, how much he's influenced, there is no one who's purely on the Satagun and one gun or the other. There's always a mixture. So there could be Satgun, which is dominating, but also there will be tinges of flavor of the other two gunas, or there could be something which is in complete ignorance, tamasic, or it could be in passion, whatever it is. So there is always a mixture, and time, place, and circumstances, this ratio keeps changing. So very nice answer, Ajay Prabhu. Thank you for that. So what we're doing is we're transcending this material platform, correct? So this material platform. So just look at it like this, like fish lives in the ocean, correct? Water. It's a natural state for the fish to be in water, correct? Now, the water has certain qualities. The quality of the water is that, say its density, it's always in motion, going up and down, things like that. We humans live on the land. The land is stable, the land is firm. So there are these certain attributes. So similarly, that platform, the material platform, has the Sat, Tamasic, and the Rajasic, the three. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get above this. So that is what is called transcendental. And transcendental has certain ways and means of how you could transcend the material form of existing, the material mode of existence. Which is better and why? Second question. Who can please share your understanding? Impersonal and devotion. Which is better and why? Haribol? Please don't be under pressure that am I saying the right answer or wrong answer? I'll give a wrong answer. I'll look very silly or stupid. No. Whatever is your understanding, what you have heard from the Vaishnavas, you can share it.
What the devotional is better because in purport, Srila Prabhupada says that we have some understanding about the bodily concept, so easily we can worship the personality of Godhead.
Very nice. The devotional aspect is better because when we are conditioned, embodied, correct? We are so much embodied into the matter or the bodily conception of existence that beyond this, there is very difficult for us to actually transcend, to go above and beyond this bodily concept. Everything has to be tangible for us. And this is something which is beyond whatever we can understand as being tangible. So in devotional service, what happens? All the bodily senses and whatever is a frame of reference is engaged in that. To give you an example, we all eat food. Everyone understands what is eating food, right? Nobody has to be taught to be hungry. Absence of food, automatically you become hungry. Correct? It's natural. So for us, being embodied in this body, in this material existence, not this lifetime, but countless lifetimes, we really understand, we really think that we are the body. So what devotion does is the exact same things that you are currently doing is leveraged and utilized in engaging all the senses in a form of devotion, through which that process we can understand. And you can understand the highest realization. Otherwise, it's just mentally we are trying to do it, and to get a grasp of something mental is extremely difficult. I'm sure when you were kids, you were taught in school, heat expands metal. And if you remember, we had that, at least we had in, I think, 5th or 6th grade science, there was a metal ball and on a string, and there was a circumference of a ring, and the ball could easily pass through that ring. And then you heat the ball and then you put it, then you can see that it is not passing because it has expanded. So there was this concept which says that heat expands metal. But when you actually did a practical application of it, you had that realization. So something to understand intellectually is just, how do you say, limited to one's intellectual capacity. And especially when it goes beyond, it becomes very difficult, whatever our intellectual capacity is. So this is why devotion is better. Very good. Thanks, Jai Prakash Prabhu. Now, here's a why deity worship isn't idol worship. Okay. So what you're saying is that the deity, we understood what the deity is in the purport, if you remember, but there's also this thing called idol worship. So actually this term idol worship, there were different invaders who came and invaded the Vedic tradition and culture. And they were trying to assert their dominance, and they were trying to assert their faith on the group which was already practicing this. So to make low and to show their superiority, they said deity worship is simply idol worship. They mocked it, they banned it, they did a lot of atrocities against people practicing it. So that's how the whole concept of idol worship came in. However, if you look closely, examine their own religion, they also have the so-called quote unquote idols that they worship. But there is always a level of hypocrisy in mankind. So understand first is what is idol worship and how it came about into existence. Then idol, basically, if you look at it, it's matter, inactive. That's what an idol is. Okay. Whereas a deity is spiritual, and anything which is spiritual is reciprocative. Please understand this. This is a fundamental difference between matter and spirit. Spirit can reciprocate, matter cannot. If you go and hug a statue, the statue won't hug you back. It won't have feelings, nothing. It remains as is. Whereas another human being will reciprocate to that. So what is a deity? Nicely, it has been explained. Prabhupada gives the example of this mailbox. So of course, today we don't have mail anymore. There are emails that we have, but still we are using these UPS and whatever, FedEx and all these other courier systems. So if you have a package to send to somebody, you write down the person's address, there are some contents, whatever that package is, and then you go and give it to an authorized location that accepts these packages, correct? And then wherever that destination is and whatever you have sent reaches that place. Now, you cannot just go and put it in any box. There is your garbage dumpster also, which is a receptacle to receive things. If you put your package in the garbage dump, will it reach the destination? No, it will go on the landfill. So similarly, Bhagavan Krishna, okay, he has incarnated as the Archa Vigraha, the deity form, and that's his mercy representation. Because our faculties are so limited, we have an opportunity to engage with the form. One is that we are so used to the bodily concept of life, it becomes easier. It doesn't become just something abstract and intellectual that we have to grasp. It becomes actually tangible, deity worship. And then people think deity worship is just stone or metal or painting or something like that. No, it is Sakshat Bhagwan itself. Why? Because he's absolute and he has invested all his energies in that deity. So there's a formal process where a pure devotee of the Lord invites Bhagwan himself to come in that deity. So tomorrow when you go to the temple and we see the darshan of Gaurnithai ji, of Jagannath Baldev Subhadra ji, of Shishi Samasundar ji, they're not just those marbles which is over there or wood. They're actually Bhagwan themselves. They're actually Bhagwan themselves. Now people may think this is sentimental, this is emotional. No, but you try serving the deities, see what happens. A total transformation occurs. And now the same thing you try serving, let's say, try serving light. Have a bulb in your house somewhere and offer it bhoga, offer it everything. Same thing, whatever you're doing. Just see what the difference will be. So over here, he accepts through the deity Archa Vigraha form, just as the mailbox accepts these letters and whatever is the content of the letter, it delivers to the destination. Similarly, our love and devotion is what Krishna accepts through his deity form. So this is what we understand what a deity is. And Bhagwan is, as I said, he is absolute. Krishna is absolute. There is no difference in his name, his form, his incarnations, his representatives, the Guru Parampara, the Vaishnava, his Dham. Each is invested with all his energies and can function in its full capacity according to that time, place, and circumstance. So this absolute nature of Bhagwan, the deity, Archa Vigraha, understanding what is idol, how idol worship comes in. If we have a clear understanding of it, then it becomes very meaningful, the devotional service, what we do. It becomes very meaningful. So now finally, to bring this to a close, let's understand what the practical applications of Bhakti Yoga is. The what, why, how, when, where. So can someone please share what is Bhakti Yoga?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Jai Prakash Prabhu.
Yeah, following the 9 process of devotional service. It's a Bhakti Yoga.
That, yes, it is correct, but I would put it more under the how, the process. But what is Bhakti Yoga? If someone who doesn't know Bhakti Yoga and asks you, what is Bhakti Yoga? How will we explain? What is Bhakti Yoga?
It's Hare Krishna Prabhuji. It's serving the Lord with love, and through that process, yoga means unification. So we become eventually we will forget ourselves with the
Sorry, Ajay Prabhu, sorry to interrupt. Could you come a little closer to your mic? I had difficulty in hearing you.
Yeah, sorry Prabhuji. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, this is better.
Yeah. So serving the Lord with love and bhakti and yoga means unification. So serving with love to the Lord and getting him like we are part and parcel of the Lord. So eventually we have to get unified with the God, or like just like we are a drop of in the ocean. Eventually all the rivers just end up mixing in the ocean. So the process of bhakti is serving the Lord with love and and forgetting our own self and getting unification. Yoga, it's getting unified with the God.
Very good.
That's what
So, very nice. You covered it well, Ajay. So, what Prabhu has said is that if you look at it, it is loving, devotional service. Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Mataji.
Prabhuji, yoga means to connect. So we connect Krishna, Lord Krishna, with different types of our services, devotional services.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very good. So what both Prabhu and Mataji have said is Bhakti Yoga or Bhakti. Yoga is connection, it's union. And Bhakti is the process of how you connect with Krishna. And that word Bhakti has three components in it. It is love, devotion, and seva. So if you understand love, we all know what is love. We all love and have been loved, and we also love. Correct? That is what love is. So love and the attributes of love is actually unconditional, unmotivated, and uninterrupted. It's not something which is doable on able basis. It's not something which is, if it's convenient for me, I'll do it. Then it is not pyar. In Hindi, the word for love is pyar. If that is the case, it becomes vyapar. Keep this in mind. Love is unconditional. Whether I get anything in return or I don't get in return, that's not even a consideration. So first thing is love. Okay, it is pyar, not vyapar. So be very careful when we go running to God. Arey Bhagwan, I'll give you one nariyal. It's very typical. I'll give you one coconut, or I'll do this for you if you do that for me. If this happens, I'll do that for. That is not love. That is a business transaction. So bhakti is not a business transaction. It is unconditional, unmotivated, spontaneous, and it is uninterrupted. First thing, love. Second is devotion. Devotion is this aspect of wholeheartedly. Bas tu hi tu, bas tu hi tu. It's just you, nothing else. That is devotion. Wholehearted, fully focused, fully attentive. That's it. Nothing more. No if and buts. Devotion and service. Seva. Service means activity, some action. Activity is the medium through which love is expressed. If I just think I love you and I don't do anything, like a mother, say mother and a child, newborn baby, how much love the mother has for that little newborn baby until the newborn baby becomes an old man. How much love the mother has for him. Now, as a newborn baby, correct, mother feels, oh yeah, I love my child. And when the child cries in the night, wants to be fed, it has soiled itself, the diapers need to be changed. The mother doesn't do anything. Is that really love? Will the child feel loved? No, I know my mother loves me, but there's nothing the mother is doing for me. So that's why it is the seva. Seva is the medium through which love is expressed. And it's because of love that mother can get up in the middle of the night. Hardly she sleeps for 1 hour and again the baby cries. She has to go and change the diaper. She has to do this. She has to do that. She has to feed the baby in the middle of the night. So that is, as they explained, mother's love comes the closest to what is this pure love. Of course, we all love, but our love has some little mishra, some little mixture of self benefit in that. Great. So we understood what is bhakti. It is loving devotional service. Now the next question is why we do bhakti.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. That's mainly because it purifies our hearts, transforms us, and gets us closer to the Lord, and takes us out from the cycle of birth and death, and brings us back to the Godhead.
But then suppose I don't want to purify my heart. I don't believe in all this. I'm an atheist. Why should I do bhakti? I don't want. There's nothing wrong with my heart. I think I'm pure. You're the one telling me I'm impure. So why? Why do we do bhakti? Why does a jiva do bhakti?
Well, in material world, I would say be happy, get off the sorrows, the material pain and suffering.
But that would be a perception, right? So you could have, what you say, so much conditioned that all the nonsense which is going around me, it is normalized. And I think this is perfectly normal. So I'm used to something like, when we were kids, we used to do that Bruce Lee's movies had come out. So everyone wanted to be an expert fighter. So we used to join these classes and they used to make you punch a wall so that your knuckles become hardened. Now that's not a natural state. It's an artificial state. So with those calluses developed on your knuckle, like that a material condition is. It's a callus which is developed on top of my knuckle and I don't see what is the underlying thing. So for me, it's perfectly normal. Actually, what is miserable is I take it as fantastic, enjoyable. So why should I do bhakti beyond the effect of bhakti, which is true bliss, actual happiness? Beyond that, why? And bhakti, as I said, is unmotivated, unconditional.
Because we are part and parcel of Krishna, and we are supposed to serve to the poor, and that's our constitutional position.
Good point. Very good point. We are part and parcel. As I mentioned, it is the infinitesimal part of an infinite whole. So what the part does, the part is meant to serve the whole. That's it. That's a natural state. The natural state of a fish is to be in water. The natural state of a human being is to breathe air on land. Fish breathes air through the water. We breathe air through the land. This is a natural state. So if I've taken and I'm put in water, it's an unnatural state. So the first thing is, it's a natural state. That's what our constitutional position is. And the real definition of who you are. Someone asks you who I am. I was born with a biological name. My biological name is Anil Shabad. I took Diksha. My spiritual name after Diksha is Amritananada Das. That's an eternal name. Anil Shabad will last with me till such time this body is alive. Anil Shabad is this name of the body. Similarly, man, a middle-aged man, is right now what my designation is, my educational background, my ethnicity, the speech which I do, the way I look. These are all bodily designations. It's always changing and it will end with death. That's it. My soul will leave all this behind and go away. My soul's name is Amritananda. That's who my soul is, correct? And just as the soul is a part and parcel, so if we see who is the soul, every soul, whether it is Amritananda, whether it is Puneet Prabhu, or whether it is Satyabhama Mataji, or whether it is this little kid I'm seeing outside my window playing, or whether there are those geese, they're all souls. And one common thread running across all these souls is what Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita has been described as Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nitya Das. The constitutional position of the living entity is that it is an eternal servitor of Krishna. And we can see that is the first fundamental aspect of a jiva, is it serves. Either we are serving Krishna or we are serving our own senses. You can never be in a state where you're not serving. We are serving. We are serving our senses, we are serving our bosses, we are serving our family, we are serving our country. Service is the common trait across every living entity. So that's why bhakti is the perfect process in which you engage in. Now, how do we engage in bhakti? Someone gave an answer earlier. How do you engage in bhakti?
Nine processes of devotional service.
Correct. There are different processes of how you do it. So we understand what, we understand why, then the question comes to how. And the simplest form, there are 9 different processes. What they recommend is Smaranam and Kirtanam, to remember and to do Kirtan. Kirtan is glorification. So the speech, the tongue that we're using, and our ears that we have. So these 2 faculties, when it is engaged. That's a very simple process of getting engaged in bhakti. Of course, there are other processes also, the 9 other processes. So that's how we get into bhakti. When do you do bhakti? Is bhakti done early morning? Someone please who hasn't answered before. And again, I'll encourage you, please don't feel embarrassed whether it is right or wrong answer.
It can be done anytime.
It can be done anytime. What else? So I can say anytime means, yes, you're right. It can be done at 4 in the morning. It can be done at 8 p.m. It can be done now, what we're doing between 7 and 8 p.m. What else? It can be done anytime and
anyone, anywhere.
Anywhere is the answer to the next one. So when can it be done? So Mataji said anytime. What's the second part?
Satatam.
Huh?
Satatam,
So what is satatam?
always.
Yes, thank you. Anytime and every time. That's what bhakti is. Anytime and every time. And where can it be done? As what Prabhu said earlier, anywhere. There's a very nice pastime. There was this devotee. He was so much engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord. So all the time his lips and tongue would be vibrating the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So much so that when he used to go to answer nature's call, because it's a contaminated, a dirty place, right? He would hold his tongue because he felt that it would be an offense. And then another Vaishnav told him, no, that's no restriction. So, this thing about bhakti, of course, that is related to chanting of the holy name, doesn't mean that you take your bead bags in and you do it, because the bead bag is a sacred, your tulsi is a sacred article. There are certain protocols that we need to maintain. But if you're chanting, it's perfectly fine. And that's why chanting is the recommended process for this condition, where we are totally conditioned in this age of Kali Yuga. Totally conditioned. The bodily concept is so tight. So that's what it says. Harer Nam, Harer Nam, Harer Nam eva kevalam, kalau nasti eva, nasti eva, nasti eva, gatir anyatah. There's no other way, there's no other way, there's no other way other than chanting of the holy name. This is the prime and the easiest way. And everything else that we are doing is just to support the quality and the intensity with which we can chant. Everything else that we're doing in bhakti is to support this aspect of chanting. So how beautiful it is, how easy it is. Just these words, Prabhu's, Mataji's, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. No need to apply the intellect, no need to do this, no need to control your breathing techniques, no need to do these various exercises and poses and, nothing, just so simple. It could be done anytime, it could be done every time, it could be done anywhere. Of course, there are recommendations how it is done. There is disciplining of the mind, where we say 16 rounds is what we'll do. It is discipline so that our mind can get disciplined. It's not that today, oh yeah, I like this and I'm doing it and tomorrow it goes away. Because it is an expression of love, right? And love is not on a doable, fable basis. So you have certain disciplines, you have the rules, do this, don't do that. So this is what Bhakti Yoga versus Jnana Yoga is all about. Thank you very much, Prabhu, Matajis, for your attention. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Any questions, any comments? I asked you questions. If you have, we can try to answer any comments, any corrections. Hare Krishna. Or we can bring this to a close.
Prabhuji, one question, right, which I'm not clear, is how the bhakti, how we get into bhakti, right? We know what is the process of getting bhakti, how So comparing like people who cannot, we try to ask even in the family member, right? They are not devotional as we are, and we see a lot of difference between the opinions and the connection, right? So is
Yeah.
it bhakti? Is it God's will and God is calling you, and then you get devotion, or is something
Yeah.
man has the power to do that? Which I'm not very clear. If you can explain that, that'll be great.
Very good question. Who's this? Sandeep Sehgal Prabhu. Very good
Yes.
question. Bhakti, first to understand is bhakti is not causal. There's no cause for bhakti. There's nothing I can do to become a recipient of bhakti. So bhakti is not cause and effect. Bhakti, look at bhakti as the mercy of Krishna. So first thing, understand that we are part and parcel of Krishna. Correct? Father's Day just went yesterday. Krishna is the Pita. He's the father, universal father of everything. He's the father. And the love that a father has for his child, that's what Krishna has for everyone, whether atheist, karmi, devotee, his enemy. Correct? Krishna loves everyone. So in that sense, everyone is a devotee of Krishna in the sense of being a part and parcel. The part serves the Krishna. So what the instruction for us is, the first thing is, we should not make these distinctions that, oh, he's a karmi, oh, he's not a devotee, I'm a devotee, this, that, and all. It's only a matter of time that separates a person from reawakening that love which is there for Krishna. It is natural, it is spontaneous. Krishna has his love for us, it hasn't diminished. It remains for us. We are the ones who chose to turn away from him, which is why we are now embodied in this. So that's the first thing to look at it. Now, the bhakti, as I mentioned, is mercy. And how it comes is, it happens in a causeless manner. Now, how this causelessness comes in is when we come in contact. So for example, it can come knowingly in contact, or it can happen unknowingly. So when, let's say, you folks go out for book distribution, and as you're distributing books, you give a Bhagavad Gita in somebody's hand. Prabhuji, here's this Bhagavad Gita. Even that simple act of holding something which is sacred, something which represents Krishna, reestablishes that connection. And sometime, it's just a matter of time, whether in a lifetime, whether in the instant, doesn't matter. That mercy will start flowing. So how we got into bhakti is, we can trace it back. Like I can trace it back to how I came in contact with the Hare Krishna process, for example. You would be able to trace how it happened. But what happened is, this is just a external manifestation. It could have happened in a previous lifetime or so much more. So this is how we get into bhakti. Bhakti is not due to our own endeavors. It is the mercy. And that mercy flows from Krishna through his representative. We are going Nagar Kirtan, we sing Kirtan. Someone passing by just hears Hare Krishna, it goes into his ears. That transcendental sound vibration doesn't remain in the intellect over here. It penetrates through the surface of all the material covering, and it touches the soul. It kind of wakes the soul from its slumber. It's in a comatose state. So that's how bhakti, and people get engaged in bhakti. And of course, there's a choice, Sandeep Prabhu. There's a choice. I could be listening to Hare Krishna every day. I could be meeting up with devotees every day. But with my free will, I insist on staying where I am, in my own set of boundaries of my own perceptions. I'm very happy with that. Krishna doesn't interfere with it. He doesn't interfere with the free will, because love can only be done freely. You can't force anyone to love you. Love is a matter of choice. You do it out of your free will, not out of compulsion. Hare Krishna. Does it answer your question, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Very nicely explained. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Very good. If no one has any more questions, we can bring this to a close. Simeshwar Prabhu, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wonderful class. Lots of nicely explained the personal aspect and impersonal aspect. Also, I like that the last section of what is devotion, when to do, how to do, what to do, why to do. This is very, very, very profound, very unique. So nice. This is the example the devotees. We are going through systematic study of Bhagavad Gita. This gives us Srila Prabhupada translate the Sanskrit verses which originally the Krishna spoken. Krishna spoken this to a pure devotee, and pure devotee is giving us the exact meaning. That's Bhagavad Gita as it is. Not only that, Srila Prabhupada being that pure devotee of the Lord, translates and gives the explanation of it very clearly. And then also we hear that from the devotees of the Lord, and it's all nectar. It is mentioned that in the Srimad Bhagavatam, when Srila Vyasadeva wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is most ripened fruit. This is mentioned that Srimad Bhagavatam is Amala Purana, it's the most ripened fruit. But when the most ripened fruit touched by, it's like we know that a mango is ripened, it's very sweet. But a parrot come and touch, or just take a, touch with his beak. When there is a difference between the ripened mango and a mango which is, tasted by a parrot. The mango which is tasted by the parrot is more sweeter than the other mangoes. So that's the way it is. So like that, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva, it was most ripened. But when Sukadeva Goswami spoke that Srimad Bhagavatam, it became more and more sweeter than. So that's the way it is. So when devotees explains the verses, especially Srila Prabhupada translated, and then the purport of Srila Prabhupada, it's become so sweeter. And when it's heard from the devotee's mouth, it's become more sweeter. So this is the way that we should listen. Hearing is very important fact. So it penetrates our material covering and then enters into our heart, our chitta. Then it purifies our heart. Chedo darpanamarchana. Because our chitta, our heart is contaminated by these material impurities. This is the way. Sravanam is the first, foremost of all this devotional service. Sravanam. Only by Sravanam that we can purify, and Kirtanam, chanting of the holy name, and Vishnu Smaranam, remembrance of the Supreme One. And it goes like this way, Sravana Kirtana Vishnu. That means we have to hear about Supreme Lord Sri Krishna Vishnu, and we have to also Kirtan, glorify and chant of the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna Vishnu. Sravana Kirtana Vishnu. Then Smaranam, we have to remember Pada Sevana, we have to offer the oblations, obeisances unto the Supreme Lord. Archanam, we have to put ourselves in that path of Archanam, offering articles to the Supreme Lord. Vandanam, obeisances. Sakyam, being friendship with the Lord. Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam, surrender unto the Lord. So this chapter is very profound to explain these various aspects of the devotional service. And all these aspects explains in this chapter. 9 process of bhakti explained in this chapter.
Prabhu, can I request you to please share, we have a free will, correct? We can
Yes.
either do bhakti or we could do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the effect of not following bhakti? What is the pros and the cons of not following bhakti? What happens? What's the consequence? If you could please share your thoughts.
Arjuna asked this question. Remember in Bhagavad Gita, what is the destiny of an unsuccessful yogi? It's called unsuccessful yogi. He started with it, but he couldn't finish. So what is the destiny of such people in this world? So Krishna says that, yes, there is no loss at all. There is no loss at all. They would continue whatever the level they achieved, the devotion and love for me, they will continue in their next life, so that they would take a birth in a devotee family or an aristocratic family, so that they would be able to continue this devotional service in their future life.
So this is for a bhakti yogi, but someone who doesn't want to take path of bhakti yoga, he has his free will and he could be doing whatever he or she wants to do. So what is the result of that?
It's also Krishna answers that such yogi will never, Krishna says in such a way that will never, he will be lost and he will never attain me, and he will be lost in this material world.
Very good.
Yeah, that's Krishna says that one who is atheist, one who is envious of me, one who is not taken this path of devotional service. But yes, there is transcendentalists, there is karma yogi, there is jnana yogi. So they all attain their own destination. Karma yogi attains the heavenly planets. Jnana yogi attains the Brahman, effulgence and merge with the Brahman effulgences. Ashtanga yogi, they go to the higher planetary systems, like there is a yoga, right? The different logas called bhuvar bhuva bhuva tapaloka janaloka maharloka, satyaloka. So they attain any of this planet. And those who are karma yogis, they go to the heavenly planets, bhuvar bhuva swa. So great people, great transcendentalists, they go to any of this loka mahar, great. Those who are yogis, tapa, they go to the tapaloka. And those who are devotion, and they goes to all this path, and then they goes to satyaloka, like brahmaloka, and all those, they go there. Vyavasaya atmika buddhi gogi kuru nandana. But Krishna says one who undivided attention to me will attain me. So yes, but those who are atheists, those who are, they go in, they will lost in this material universe, material world. And it's very difficult, very troublesome for them. Krishna used this word, troublesome. Very troublesome for them, and they're lost in this material world. And that's where we can see that it's very difficult for them.
Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for that.
No problem, Jai. Thank you. Thank you for such a beautiful, nicely explains the science of Krishna consciousness, science of Krishna.
Yeah.
This is what is exactly, dear devotees, you have to hear. And we have to always remember our constitutional position. As it was mentioned that why we are doing bhakti, that's our eternal constitutional position. We are all part of Krishna. So when we perform this loving devotional service, that's a compatible situation. Otherwise, it is an incompatible situation. So our all activities dovetail to, Krishna's service. That's the exact position, constitutional position. So naturally, one who has that consciousness, his body, mind, and speech and the words utilized for the service of Krishna. So everything, this is the core. That's why this chapter is very profound. This is the core of everything. So everything else comes to this point. Krishna mentioned about Karma Yoga, but what Krishna says finally about Karma Yoga, pure devotional service, that is akarma. So Karma Yoga should also transcend and dovetail to Bhakti Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga should, is dovetail and transcend and bring to the Bhakti Yoga. And Karma Yoga should dovetail. Jnana Yoga, Bahunam Janmanam Ande, Jnanavan Mam Prabhutyande. So sometimes there is always a confusion. It's not really confusion. The people misunderstood the Bhagavad Gita. Somebody says that, that who is that Balagangadhara Tilak or is Rajendra Prasad, somebody came up with this Bhagavad Gita. They said, the focal point of Bhagavad Gita is Karma Yoga. Everybody, even if you ask a common man or whoever is studied even Bhagavad Gita, school of Bhagavad Gita, people all says that the focal point, the essence of Bhagavad Gita is Karma Yoga. They don't understand. What is Karma Yoga? Just do your duty. That's what it's all about. Yes, you do your duty with the understanding of why you are doing your duty. That's to please the Krishna. That's ultimately Krishna says in the 5th chapter. Akarma. That means then only you will not have any karma. Otherwise you are bound by the karma. That is not the message of Bhagavad Gita. The message of Bhagavad Gita is this chapter, Bhakti Yoga. So this is the essence of all this 18th chapter. All this, everything else is just to bring to this, in order to bring a person gradually and gradually and gradually and gradually bring to this point. Ananyas chindayanto mam, echana mam pariyapasati. Ananya, undivided, unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. One who has this realization and knowledge, so he should definitely engage in his personal service. This is the way we all attain Krishna. Otherwise, yes, you would be in different conditions. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah. So all opportunities that, this, as always says, devotees, this is always the mercy of the Lord that we have this opportunity. It goes through Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam and transcendental, these all scriptures. So they we understood. So as always we say, right, these are transcendental informations for our benefit, for our own transformation. So we should take advantage of it. Otherwise, it's just take it. Even hearing it has such a tremendous benefit and effect. But one who tastes, that you get the smell of an apple, or you get the smell of some, tasty food. Yes, you get the smell. That's it. You get the benefit of, yes, having this or having in contact with it. But unless and until you really taste it, then you will not understand, or will not understand what exactly it is. So that's what it is. Some people talk about it, but they don't really enter into it. Some people hear it, but they don't really take it. Some people go through it, they don't take it. So that's why Krishna also mentioned that Manusyanam Sahasreshu Kaschit Dadati Siddhi Edati Api Siddhanam Kaschit Mamedi Tattvadah. Out of many millions, one who knows me, and out of many millions of one who knows me, hardly one endeavor to attain me. So this is the fact. So we should be that the one of the millions, that one who attains Krishna, not that just knowing Krishna. Yes, knowing Krishna is very wonderful. That's the first step, the ultimate to attain Krishna. So we should put ourselves. It's not so difficult or anything. It's just a matter of discipline in our life. That's all. Just a matter of discipline in our life. How much we enjoy in this world, and everybody is frustrating day by day. So all is matter of just discipline our life and focus on this Krishna service, whichever the way we can do. So don't miss any opportunity in our life that to engage in the loving devotion. So always look for it, grab for it. That's what is endeavor. Bhavagrahi Janardana. Krishna knows what are we trying to do. Yeah. So please take this wonderful opportunity and, perfect our life. Perfection. Beautiful. Anything else?
Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Yeah.
Yeah, Prabhu. Dandavat to Amritanandan Prabhu. Is a wonderful class.
Yes, wonderful, amazing class.
Prabhupada.
Prabhu. And you give the definition of the bhakti and everything. So my one question, Prabhu, Dhruva Maharaj, is the fourth canto. And then Dhruva Maharaj did the tapasya. That means one type of yoga also, that thing, right? And that is did the tapasya at 5 years old, right? He's 5 years old. So that time he did the tapasya, and after that, end of the life also he did the tapasya also, right, Prabhu? So main thing is that he got the siddhi at 5 years old, when he was in at 5 years. But why he did at the last of devotional bhakti? Because of that he has the connection with the God, that is correct. But when he reached to the Dhruva Loka, there I read that the purport there is two planets, Sisumara and Dhruva planet. There is two planet or same?
I don't know the technical details, Prabhu, but you know why he did tapasya.
No, not the tipo tapasya. I know that. I got the point, because he's already devotee, pure devotee. He can do the tapasya also, not a problem. He's always connected to the God, connected to the Lord.
Yeah.
So, but he reached to the highest planet, that Dhruva planet, that is the Setadipa of Prabhuji. Simeswarupu other day described about it. And Sisumara is the same planet or something, or not?
I wouldn't know. I'll refer the question to Sameshwar Prabhu. He can perhaps shed more light on this.
The Shishimara is not the Dhruva planet. Shishimara is a combination of collection of stars, which is in the shape of the Vishnu, Lord Vishnu. You can see that even if some good, like dark night, you can see that the Lord lies down like a, like a, in a recliner form, like like a Mahavishnu, like that. So you can see that. So considering that form, it's considered as very auspicious. It's in the Bhagavatam. It's called Shishumara. Shishumara, the stars or Shishumara planet is considered as. Dhruva planet goes beyond Shishumara planets. And seeing Shishumara and is considered is very auspicious because of its yogis and other planets worship this the form of the Lord Shishumara. Then Dhruva Loka goes beyond, and then that's static. Shishumara is not static. Shishumara rotates, but Dhruva Loka is static. It's pivot, and everything else in this material world revolve, against the Dhruva Loka or pole star. Even scientists, they confirmed it. But this was mentioned thousands of years ago, that this is the pivot. Dhruva is the pivot of everything else rotates the Dhruva planet. So it's static, it's stable. It doesn't annihilate even this material world because of its word of Shiro Dakshaya Vishnu. And that's a planet Krishna, Dhruva. Lord promised to Dhruva Maharaj that Dhruva Maharaj had this desire that I should have a kingdom which is greater than my great-grandfather, Brahma. The Brahmaloka, we can imagine, it's complete kind of universe. But here, Lord, just by desire, just through our desire that, Lord even naturally give that to Krishna, Dhruva, that you would get that planet, that abode, that which is much, much, much opulent and bigger than any of the other universe. So it's mentioned that when we go higher and higher and higher, the universes and everything is much, much higher than the below of it. That's why the Golok, Vrindavan, the Vaikuntha planets are so vast. Satyaloka is so vast than any other planetary system. So like that, Dhruvaloka is so vast. But Dhruvaloka is not the boundary of the material world. It goes beyond. Then there is local Loka planet and the mountains, and so beautifully explained in the Bhagavatam. Then is finally reached to the boundary of his this Viraja. So it's amazing to understand from Bhagavatam. Yeah, there's two different planetary systems. Ashish Prabhu.
Yes, got it, Prabhu. And Shetadipa is the same thing as Dhuvaloka or not,
Yes,
Prabhu?
yes, that's the abode of Lord Vishnu, and that's called Swadadeep. That's where the Dhruva also there in the same abode of Supreme Lord. And it's very amazing to see that 36,000 years Dhruva Maharaj ruled this planet. 36,000 years. As soon as Dhruva Maharaj realized and the Supreme Lord appeared before Dhruva Maharaj, since then, Dhruva Maharaj is wonderfully performing his devotional activities every day. Every day he gets up, he does his sadhana, and then only he starts everything, Dhruva Maharaj. And also, Dhruva Maharaj had to rule the kingdom, rule this entire universe. That's what it is, because of Dhruva, the grandson of Brahma, and Uttanapad was the, and Uttanapad's father was, who is that? The Manu, right? So it goes on like that. So they were entirely ruling this entire, pretty much the universe. So Dhruva also had to do that because of she's a Kshatriya, he born in a Kshatriya, so he had to do that. But at the same time, he was a perfect devotee, doing all his sadhana every day, and Lord is in the center, Supreme Lord is in the center. And even at the moment, last moment, the Lord sent Nanda and Sunanda, his personal servants, Krishna's personal servants, Nanda and Sunanda, to bring back Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj said, wait for me, let me finish my sadhana. Let me finish my, all this. They don't always, this is the mood. They always, in that mood of always worship the Lord, conscious of the Lord. They never break their sadhana, even if at the time of death. Dhruva Maharaj did that, and everybody had to wait. Dhruva Maharaj did in the morning, and all wonderful sadhana, everything is took bath, did the sadhana, all this wonderfully. They were waiting. And then what happened? Then the time comes, Dhruva Maharaj had to ascend to the chariot. So this time Yamaraj came running. Yamaraj saw that Dhruva Maharaj was about to ascend and step into the chariot. So this time Yamaraj came down and requested Dhruva Maharaj, please put your feet on my head. Thus you climb. So dear devotees, attaining a title of devotee is not an ordinary thing. Every other gods, every other living entity, everybody respects a devotee because of they offer their oblations to the devotee. They would shower their flowers, and when Dhruva Maharaj enters, all the demigods, everybody was showering the flowers. Yamaraj came down to show his head, put Dhruva Maharaj devotees' lotus feet on the head of Yamaraj. So look at that position of a devotee. So this is Lord never, Lord takes each and every devotee as his own, So we sometimes minimize, he is a devotee, who is that, No, we should, this is our greatest fortune. when you see a devotee, that this is our greatest fortune, offer our oblations and respect and service to that devotee, which is more dearer than, direct worship of Krishna. Krishna pleases such humble and, selfless service to the devotees. Wherever we see devotees, we should have that respect for such devotees. That's why Vaishnava Aparadha is so severe. The reason for Vaishnava Aparadha is so severe that even Brahma Hatya there is atonement. For everything else there is atonement, but for Vaishnava Aparadha there is no atonement. That's the position of a devotee. The devotees, it's not an ordinary thing that which we are speaking about. This is pure science. Everybody can take advantage of. Everybody realize this and have this consciousness that is, I'm a devotee, and not that to puff off, to serve. Devotee means the devotee itself. The devotee means service.
Yes, Prabhu. Great, Prabhu. Well explained. Dandavat Pranam, everyone. Dandavat Pranam, Amritananada Prabhu. Very nice class. Dandavat Pranam.
All
Dandavat
Krishna
Pranam.
Prabhupada.
Okay, wonderful. Let's then conclude if there is nothing else. Okay. Thank you, Amritananda Prabhuji. It was so nice. Very power-packed.
All Prabhupada.
Yeah. So let's conclude. Vancha kalpatarupasya.
Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Dharaj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Hari
Thank
Hari
you,
Bol.
everybody. Hari Bol. Hare
Thanks
Krishna.
Thank you so
everyone.
much, Amritananda.
Hari Bol.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna.
Hare